Imagine stepping out of an airlock, entirely exposed to the void of space. Today's explainer explores a completely hypothetical one-way descent, a straight fall from Earth directly into the center of our solar system. We are looking at the unforgiving physics of falling into the sun.
When analyzing a scenario this extreme, we have to start with a fundamental question. What actually kills you first? The immediate assumption is fire, the blinding, unimaginable heat of a star. But the sequence of your destruction is far colder and far stranger than a simple, fiery demise.
The first myth we have to dismantle is burning alive. In reality, the vacuum of space immediately outside Earth's atmosphere is absolute freezing blackness. Without the protection of a spacesuit, you would die of severe hypothermia and oxygen deprivation long before a single wave of solar heat ever reached your skin.
But for the sake of this thought experiment, we will assume you are immortal. You survive the freezing vacuum, and you just keep falling. 93 million miles. That is a staggering expanse of silent, total emptiness that you have to cross before you even get close to the solar surface.
And you are just drifting. Gravity is a relentless engine. By the time you are a million miles out, the sun's immense mass is dragging you down at a velocity surpassing any spacecraft humanity has ever engineered. You are entirely at the mercy of its pull.
The timeline of this descent is quiet but rapid. Hour 0, you leave Earth's freezing orbit. Days later, you cross the 1 million mile mark. But weeks later, at about 4 million miles from the surface, you cross a violent threshold, the corona, the sun's outer atmosphere.
The moment you enter the corona, the temperature registers at an incomprehensible 1 million degrees. Logic dictates instant incineration, a wall of heat that completely vaporizes you on contact. But counterintuitively, that doesn't happen.
The reality of physics here is deeply deceptive. There is a critical distinction between high temperature and actual heat transfer. Yes, the temperature is 1 million degrees, but the corona is almost a vacuum. It is so thin there are simply not enough particles striking your body to transfer that heat. You pass right through 1 million degrees, physically intact.
But you are still falling, down toward the photosphere, the part of the sun that actually glows. As the environment thickens, you have to ask what happens when the density changes. As those particles pack tighter together, the physical rules shift again. A bizarre new threat emerges before you even touch the surface.
The light itself becomes a physical weapon. This is known as radiation pressure. It is the mechanical pressure exerted just from the exchange of momentum with the electromagnetic field. At this proximity, the sheer volume of light is so intense it literally begins to tear at your physical structure.
Yet, even as the light shreds you, we reach the most unsettling twist of the journey. This stops being a story about heat. It stops being a story about light. It becomes a story about gravity acting as a brutal mechanical executioner. Your mechanical destruction is caused by tidal forces, the gravitational gradient that stretches a body toward an attracting mass. Because you are so close to something so incomprehensibly heavy, if you fall feet first, gravity pulls your feet with significantly more violence than it pulls your head.
As Professor Chalk notes in our source material, the physical result of these immense differential forces is that you stretch like taffy. You are forcefully elongated. Your biological form is fundamentally broken down, unmade by gravity alone.
Because you are structurally unmade in the descent, the idea of a dramatic, fiery crash is entirely fiction. There is no splash, there is no crater, there is no debris field. You leave absolutely zero physical evidence that you were ever there.
You leave no mark because you never actually hit a solid surface. By the time you arrive, you aren't solid either. The sheer magnitude of these forces has ripped your atomic structure apart, converting you into plasma, an ionized, highly conductive gas. You simply become part of the sun. The mechanics of the solar system are brutally systematic. The sun unmakes you in a very specific order. First, the freezing void. Second, the crushing light of radiation pressure. Third, the inescapable, stretching pull of gravity. It is a complete redefinition of how these forces operate.
It is a beautifully grim reality of extreme astrophysics. If dissecting these stark, hypothetical scenarios appeals to you, make sure to follow this explainer series. Next time, we are looking at something even darker. What happens if you fall into a black hole instead? The physics there are entirely unforgiving.